watched like a little bit of
by
it,
Card
but
Kingdom. Head to
I wanted to watch this.
cardkingdom.com/studies to pick up Chaos Orbs, Falling Stars, and all your favorite old.
Dude, Chaos Orb is such a crazy card. I can't believe that they did that back in the day where they're like, we're gonna have dexterity cards, and like you're gonna have to throw them like onto the table. That's just nuts, dude. Crazy.
School Magic cards. Browse the graded section of the site for high-end pieces slabbed and stamped with official marks from industry leaders like PSA and CGC. This foil Shivan Dragon from 7th edition is a real heater. Whichever each
Dude, those old foils, those like 7th edition foils, can be worth like quite a bit of money from what I understand. Like, yeah, it's a while. Like, well, and the mint graded, obviously worth a lot of money, but like, even if you just have like a regular one, like a little bit trashy, like they were just really like the foils were actually like a chase thing back then. Like now you can buy whole packs of cards that are just all foils. Like not even it's not even fun anymore. It's not even cool anymore to have like foil cards. Plus they all curl.
choose, Card Kingdom provides high-quality products and responsive customer service and will ship your entire order all in one package. A couple weeks back, I put out a Siren's Call asking for pictures and stories about Chaos Orb. Within the hour, I had a pending voicemail from a buddy out
Hopefully it's not too loud.
east who used to play Magic way back in the day.
So, me and the boys are at the store championship, and Rupert and Austin brought their buddy from out of town. Super quiet guy.
Dude, look at this too. Look at this picture. No sleeves. Like, at all. They're just playing. And look at this table, dude. What happened to this table? It's so messed up. Like, it's got so many cuts in it. And you know, these rubber bands, they held their decks together with rubber bands. Just so, look at the cards, dude. They're so bent up. God, crazy.
He's playing this Angel Stasis pile, and he's crushing everybody with it. Guy makes it to the finals, and he's in game 3 against this board of like 15 creatures. He's at 4 life. There's no chance he's coming back from this. Goes to his turn. Guy draws this single copy of Chaos Orb in his deck, and we're all looking like, there's no chance. Like, it can get rid of one thing, but he's still dead on the crackback. Without skipping a beat, this guy just starts tearing up his orb.
Dude. Yeah, this story is crazy. I remember this is like one of the most like fabled stories I feel like in the Magic the Gathering community, or like I don't know what you want to call it. It's like a legendary story. A guy rips up his card, it's Chaos Orb, and just throws it all over the table and destroys everything. I don't even remember where I first heard it. Like I heard it just somewhere when I first started playing Magic. Yeah, now he's got this whole video about it. Let's watch it.
A million pieces. Like I said, he's quiet, dude. He hasn't said 3 words this entire time, so we're like, is this guy okay? Like, what's going on? He just stands up, takes all the pieces and shakes them up Yahtzee style above his opponent's board and just lets him fall, looks at the board and says, destroy
Yahtzee
all
style.
your creatures. And we are just losing our minds at this point. We're all running around screaming.
That guy is losing his mind right now. Look at how happy he is to be playing Magic. Like, he's got his dice, he's got his cards, he's got his friends. This is a true representation of the Gathering. This is a great picture. Look at it, man. So much happiness.
It's just sitting there in shock. A couple seconds later, the opponent just calls for the judge. Judge comes over. They step away from the table for a few seconds. Meanwhile, we're high-fiving this guy, congratulating him on the craziest win ever. Judge comes back, looks at the guy and says, you're disqualified. The guy looks at the judge and says, what, is it illegal to tear up my cards? Judge looks back and says, no, but your deck only has 59 cards in it.
Oh my god. This deck only had 59 cards in it because he tore one up, and it's technically, I guess it's technically not a card anymore, but it's just not intact. It's not a legal card, I guess. Oh my god. That is a crazy reason to get disqualified. What if he would have been running 61 cards? Then would it have been okay? The orb. Okay, I actually can't read that. Why is it upside down? Part 1, coins and frisbees. Oh, he flipped it over. He flipped it over. Okay, we're good.
On page
we can read it
32
now.
of the very first issue of the Duelist magazine published by Wizards of the Coast in the winter of 1994, there appears an article titled Magic Conundrums, a look at the gathering's most confusing cards. Populating the list are the usual suspects like Lich, Jade Statue, and Illusionary Mask.
Wait, which one is Jade Statue? Becomes a creature for the... Wait. Jade Statue becomes a creature for the duration of the current attacking exchange. Can be a creature only during attack or defense. That is confusing. The timing of that is really confusing. Like, you have to do it during combat, I guess. That's probably what it's errata to. Yeah, that's probably what it's errata. I don't want to... Jade Statue. Look at the Oracle text for Jade Statue. Okay, see. Jade Statue becomes a 3/6 artifact creature until end of combat. Play this ability only during combat. Makes so much more sense. Cool. I'm glad we got that out of the way. Okay, keep
But
going.
there was another name too. Game designer and author of the article Dave Howell writes, "Perhaps the most wildly interpreted card is Chaos Orb." He elaborates, "Many players feel that when the orb is in play, anything goes. Unfortunately, there are some rules that apply to the orb's use. For one, it has to rotate 360 degrees. According to the official Gatherer rules published 10 years later, this rotation is measured like a coin flipping and not like a frisbee spinning. In other words, it has to tumble side over side in the air. While it's
You have to flip it like card for card. Okay, this Kiln Fiend is you have to be like this. Like you have to flop it like that. Huh. That'd be something to practice if I ever put Chaos Orb in my cube, how to throw a magic card.
falling, your opponent cannot physically interfere, and even before you activate the orb, they cannot rearrange the position of their cards on the table. To this, Howell remarks, "There are no rules against setting up your playing area at the outset of the duel in a way that makes using the orb difficult." In the earliest days of Magic, tournament players had to consider Chaos Orb when casting spells. Often this meant spreading out lands and creatures at least one card's length apart to minimize its devastating effect.
That's crazy. People used to min-max the distance. Like they had to put all their cards a card length. Look at that battlefield. His land's like... His land's up here. He's got a Birds of Paradise, a Mox, Ruby. No sleeves. What is that? Mox Emerald? Or is that a land too? Dude, that battlefield looks
Effects on
so
their side of the
confusing.
battlefield. At the first ever Magic World Championship, held at Gen Con 94 in Milwaukee, the winner of the tournament, Zach Dolan, had a Chaos Orb primed in his sideboard. Earlier that same week, Chaos Orb was restricted to 1 copy per deck, and by November of the following year, it would be outright banned from tournament
Look at
play
that guy.
across all formats. This remains true of the card still today. The primary reason for its outlawing is, coincidentally, its most unique feature. Chaos Orb and its distant cousin Falling Star have both been branded dexterity cards. They require physical skill to resolve, and since 1993, they have been sidelined exclusively to silver-bordered
Wait,
sets.
what does Falling Star do? Flip Star onto the playing arena from a height of at least 1 foot. Star must turn at least 360. So this one specifies. When it lands, Falling Star does 3 damage to each creature that it touches. Any creatures damaged by Falling Star that are not destroyed become tapped. Wow. That... What? I feel like this card is bad. Like, it's just bad in general. 3 mana. I guess you could be doing like 6 damage with it if you're touching 2 cards. So they have to be creature, then it taps all the other creatures. Which is like, whatever, because this is a sorcery. So I guess you're going to be able to attack. But then they just untap their creatures next turn.
Imitators like Orcish Paratroopers require players to flip them from a height of at least 1 foot, but other designs like Slaying Mantis have casters tossing their cards onto the table from even further distances. Balancing is another attribute of the Dexterity group. Here's a photo of my friend Jeff trying to keep a form of the approach of the second sun atop his head during an Unfinity draft. As per the official rule set, if you're unable to carry out such an action, you can always invite other players to perform in your place.
What?
Like a celeb shot in beer pong.
Wait, how is that allowed? Like, you could just go get your friend and be like, hey, throw this Chaos Orb for me? I don't get that. You're unable... Okay, so if you're literally not able to... Okay. Like, you're disabled. I see. Okay, okay. So that's the only way you can do it. You can't just... Yeah, and you have to... Okay, and you and your opponent have to agree on it. Okay. I thought it was just like anyone could... For a second, I was like, anyone can just go ask anyone to throw their Chaos Orb? Like, that's wild.
Reading through the notes on Scryfall for the Dexterity cards is always a treat. There are some unexpectedly metaphysical comments in here. Enforcing these rules at the highest levels of tournament Magic quickly became impossible. Measuring the heights of 1 foot and confirming the 360 degrees of rotation, and even qualifying what exactly Chaos Orb landed on in those corner case scenarios generated too many gray areas of discrepancy. For the record, sleeves count as an extension of your cards. Also for the record, and to my great chagrin, you cannot destroy an opponent's entire library with a flip. This, of course, can be house ruled, as was the case at MagicCon Philadelphia when I snapped this picture. Someone's lucky day meant the opposite for someone else, but you gotta put some respect on the accuracy here. Nowadays, the only...
Wait, so you landed the Chaos Orb on the guy's deck, so it destroyed the whole deck? Wouldn't it just destroy the top card because it's touching it? And technically, it's touching the deck. Feel bad for that guy. Crazy.
The only place you'll find Chaos Orbs flipping through the air is at your local pub in the hands of passionate cube drafters. It's a fitting environment for such a whimsical Magic card, a perfect backdrop to the spectacle. Typically, players will huddle around the table when someone declares they're going to blow up the board. A Chaos Orb activation gives us drama, suspense, a great laugh. Every snapshot tells its own story of a successful flip or a dreadful one.
Kind of fun because you could come up with like a bunch of different house rules for Chaos Orb. Like, well, you're gonna have the Chaos Orb, you gotta throw it like across the room. Like, you gotta like chuck it. You know? I don't know. You could do. I don't know. I don't even know. You could have different house rules. That'd be interesting. Or you have to like throw it up from under the table. I don't know.
I especially love being present to watch folks who have never activated the orb before. There's a lot of people who make the case for an ideal technique, but I would advocate against practicing your flips beforehand. It feels like a slight against the spirit of the card.
That guy's been doing Chaos Orbs for
up to
years.
this
Look
point
at that.
is what I originally had concept.
He knows what he's
for this
doing with
video.
it.
I thought I'd make a shorter piece, maybe leave some room for a few anecdotes, or look at the card's surprising price trends. But while searching for stories about Chaos Orb, as it so often happens with Magic history, I stumbled upon a rabbit hole that went much, much deeper.
So here I am, sitting by the computer late at night, sleep amiss, looking through the binders. I like the binders and the cards they hold. Some people here may know that I collect Chaos Orbs. I've learned more about the history of Magic trying to collect Chaos Orbs than anything else I've done within this hobby. For almost every Magic player in the world, these 3 pieces of paper mean nothing.
Dude, how did they even play with those back in the day? Those are like the playtest cards. Like, how do you have a deck of those? How do you shuffle that?
Finding these took me years. I could probably talk for hours about these 3 pieces of paper. The 3 Chaos Orbs that existed before Alpha went to the printers.
This is the story of the first Chaos Orbs, or rather, the story of the beginning of
Oh, they're called Sphere of Annihilation. Okay. Whoa, I think that's a D&D thing.
Magic the Gathering.
I think.
We often think of Alpha as the first version of Magic, a hodgepodge of ideas and incongruous concepts with egregious power level imbalances. But over a year before Alpha went to print, the game was shipped to pockets of playtest groups across the country. Accompanying these hand-printed cards were questionnaires that guided feedback for future changes. Richard Garfield understood the value of vetting and testing, and this back-and-forth correspondence.
And imagine being one of those, like, first play testers. It'd be kind of awesome. I mean, you wouldn't really know what's going on. Like, you'd be like... I mean, obviously, you wouldn't know what's going on. Like, you wouldn't understand the game because you're learning, but... Like, I feel like it's just such a novel concept. Like, back then. I don't know. I don't know any other games that would have been like Magic, really.
With these players resulted in multiple rough drafts of his burgeoning game. The earliest Magic cards feature drawings from Calvin and Hobbes strips and old D&D manuals. Their names were in flux with their mechanics. This version of Illusionary Mask plays nothing like its printed counterpart. Cards were collated together on rudimentary sheets of printer paper and divided by rarity. Here's a batch of blue commons, which included Minor Wizard, i.e. Prodigal Sorcerer, and Time Walk. At this stage, the template for mana cost read as the total number, followed by how much must be of a certain color.
Okay, wait. So it's 2U, but what it means is it's a colorless and a blue. It still means that one of them has to be a blue, which is why it says U. Okay.
This demonic tutor, for example, requires 2 mana, one of which must be black, and not 2 and a black as we might read it today. All of these examples, however, were in and of themselves polished versions of previous drafts. These aren't the alpha playtest cards. They are considered the gamma playtest cards by those who collect them, the near final iterations that eventually became the Gathering. Logic follows that even earlier versions of these designs exist. The paper trail follows too. To help explain, I contacted one of the foremost historians of early Magic.
Okay, hold on. That looked wild. Watch that again.
To help explain, I contacted one of
Why did he look
the foremost historians.
like his skin like blended in with the card?
To help explain, I
looked bald at
contacted one of the
first.
foremost historians of early Magic, the author of the blog that completely altered the trajectory of this video, and the inventor of the old school format, Magnus de Laval.
If you try to look at, the development of Magic, you can divide it into like 4 kind of distinct phases. The first phase is like theory crafting, where Richard Garfield, comes up with the ideas in his head. At this point, he removed dice from the game, or he removes the idea to tear up lost cards. And, he takes the idea of mana from Larry Niven's books. And,
Wait, you say he takes dice out of the game? And is that what he said? Dice out of the game? I gotta hear
at
that
this
again.
point, he removed dice from the game, or he removes the idea to tear up lost cards. And, he takes the idea of mana from Larry.
Tear up lost cards? That was like if you... So like instead of going to your graveyard, you just tear it up. Just tear up the card. That's a great way to sell things. They'd be like, well, you tore up all your cards, so now you gotta buy more.
Niven's books.
They were scamming us even back then.
Credits Larry Niven on that by having his name backwards on Nevin's disc, and you have these kind of ideas. And then you come into the first stage with playtesting cards, which is commonly referred to as alpha by those who collect playtest cards. And here he has, depending on source, 80 or 120 cards that are all handmade, which he plays with Barry Reich and, comes up with the ideas. And they have like one pile of cards or one deck of cards, which they split. And then, comes the second phase with cards, which is, more known probably, which is called beta.
Anthill. Artifact. Creates a 1/1 creature tap. Okay. It's like ants coming out of the hill when you tap it. Funny.
Here you don't really have like mana symbols. All the cards don't have arts. If
Look at that forest,
like
man.
Power and toughness, they only have like 1 digit, and they have like 100 cards total in this set. The third playtest era, which is called Gamma, is probably the most known one. And here the cards like fully resemble magic cards. They have both power and toughness.
These resemble magic cards. What he said. All right.
You have instants and sorceries, you have creatures and artifacts.
And this card is called Magic.
And lands and all these kind of things. And this era starts around the autumn of 92 or something like that. At this point, they have gathered around 4.
Dude, look at those playtesters, man. They're like, we're here, we're ready. Play some Magic. We don't even know what that is, but it's crazy, dude. Came up with this game. Look at this. Oh, whoa. What does it say? Polis... what? Ice Age? They're already planning out Ice Age. Dude, oh my gosh.
So they have like a lot of people to playtest.
It was during this primordial stage of development that Richard Garfield started thinking
And the bunny ears, guys, come on. It's like so unoriginal.
about Magic even beyond Alpha.
At this point also, Richard Garfield realized that, if we want to keep doing these things, he would either need to create a power creep so that people would keep buying cards, or he would need to update the games or create some sort of rotation. So, the people would be interested in buying new cards. So he decides to say, okay, so let's try to do rotations. So instead of just having Magic and then, making it better and better, we will create new editions of the game each year. So the first edition we will create is Magic the Gathering. Then a year later, we'll create Magic the Ice Age. And then a year later, we'll create Magic the Menagerie. And these are...
Oh, man. Changing the name, too, like every single set. Oh, I feel like that'd just be such a bad idea. Glad they didn't do that.
Like expansions, so we think of them today. These are, the next edition of Magic.
Collectors date the earliest known appearance of Chaos Orb to this time period. Like Prodigal Sorcerer, it went by a different name, one that paid homage to a magical destructive object found in a mid-70s Dungeons & Dragons booklet. Sphere of Annihilation from the Gamma batch marks the first of 3 Chaos Orb playtest cards in Magnus's collection.
So the Gamma Orb, it's 2 to cast, nothing to activate, so it's slightly better than Chaos Orb. And also you just need to flip it from 6 inches, and it only needs to turn 180 degrees.
How did they flip these cards? Like, they're just pieces of paper. Wouldn't they just float? Like, you don't... I mean, I guess, like, these, like, regular cards are pieces of paper, but they're a little heavier. They're easier to just kind of flip. Or how do you flip a... Like, can you flip actual paper? I guess you can flip paper. I don't know. I don't know. That's crazy, man. Crazy.
Kind of fun fact on this that it specifies that it doesn't destroy anti. So that's like a very, very old school.
Dude, anti. Oh my god. Forgot that they had that, dude. Anti. Like, you would have to give your opponent your Black Lotuses or whatever you had on your anti. Like, you'd have to give them your cards. That was part of the game. That's terrible. That's terrible.
Part of the card, I guess. It's hard to pin down how many of each rare of Gamma was made, but they tend to say, it's less than 5 is a very common number. A lot of the rares have never been uncovered. I would probably more than 30% of them has never been seen. So the fact that there are multiple
that's just because they're pieces of paper. Like, they're gone, dude. Those got thrown in the trash. Like, those are gone. Big gone. Those are somewhere in the middle of the ocean or something, or like They're probably like completely degraded by now. They're just gone. Like somebody threw them away. That's why you don't find them.
Surviving Spheres of Annihilation is like kind of sweet.
The Gamma Sphere of Annihilation is closest mechanically to the final printed version of Chaos Orb. Garfield advocated for the dexterity cards early on. He seemed to enjoy exploring that dimension of design and gameplay.
Somehow Richard Garfield is like he's a genius. He created magic, everything like that, but like then he had just like the worst ideas like for cards and stuff like Shahrazad, and he just I get it cuz he likes to play with design space and stuff like that, but man, like I feel like he just tried to push it too far sometimes. He's like a mad scientist.
Other playtesters, however, vetoed the flip, pushing instead for an activated ability. This is evident in the second playtest card of Sphere of Annihilation, lovingly nicknamed the Orange Orb, for the unreleased edition of Magic called the Menagerie.
So I heard about this card and I had no confirmation, but it's got to be somewhere. But I hadn't seen a picture of it. The guy that had it was the lead playtester for Menagerie.
The Orange Orb was much more powerful. It cost 3 mana and could remove anything on the board, no flips necessary. But while Menagerie was beginning development...
Wait. Permanently discard the Sphere of Annihilation and any other... Oh my god. I think that would definitely see play today, probably.
The Gathering
what was the
released
cost?
in
Like
the summer
2?
of 93
That's
to
wild.
huge
That
demand.
would definitely see play. That's so
Given that
good.
so many
That's way too
cards
good.
in Menagerie were reprints or reinterpretations of cards appearing in Alpha.
Maybe not.
The team put the project on the back
maybe
burner
it's not that
to work
good,
on
but
expansions like Arabian
yeah,
Nights,
because you gotta play it.
Fallen
Like,
Empire.
because you gotta play it and then you gotta activate it. Like, there's too many chances for your opponent to respond to it. Probably it'd be better off just like casting like Murder or something.
And the Dark. Eventually, the designs in Menagerie were divided between Mirage and Visions, and during that time, Sphere of Annihilation evolved momentarily into a card called Spear of Annihilation. This playtest card fully...
Spear of Annihilation. How do they go from sphere to spear? What's the point? Why change it if you're just gonna change it that little? I guess they're trying to change the flavor. What does this say? Menagerie? It does say menagerie. That's... Oh my gosh. This one actually kind of looks like a magic card.
resembled a modern magic card, and in 1996, Spear evolved again and took on its final form.
Oh, so it
While
became a
Magnus
real
was
card.
on the hunt for the Orange Orb, he discovered yet another hidden gem.
Like they turned
the Epsilon Orb.
Epsilon was...
It was like a Chaos Orb prototype, but they turned it into a different card. Like... But then they also printed Chaos Orb, so they also printed the actual... It's weird. Huh.
like a really interesting set. So it was the latest version of the core game of Magic before it came into fruition. The fun thing with the Epsilon one, I would argue, is that it's the first proper, art failure. They accidentally used the wrong art for the card. Instead of using the art for Chaos Orb or Sphere of Annihilation, they used the art for Magical Disc or Nevinyrral's Disc, which is an MC Escher painting.
Mechanically, the Epsilon Orb was the same as the Menagerie Orb, except it cost 4 mana instead of 3. Because of this detail, Magnus and others believe certain cards from Epsilon could simply be the second edition of Menagerie. However, an unreleased set called Power Lunch throws a
Power Lunch. That would have been a crazy set. Imagine. Like, they come out with a new set, like, next year. We got Innistrad, we got whatever, I can't remember any of the names of any of the Magic sets now, but Throne of Eldraine coming up later this year. Then Power Lunch. All these creatures are eating lunch. There is a lot of food tokens, actually, to be fair, nowadays. So they could have a Power Lunch set. It would just be like a lot of food stuff.
into certainty, as some of these cards could also have made up playtest batches for that concept. Power Lunch is another rabbit hole all its own, one that has deep roots with a separate Wizards product that released decades later in 2010. Early playtest cards from this project show off some extreme ideas, like reducing Shivan Dragon's casting cost to 2 red mana. In looking at these 3
That's
playtest
broken.
cards side by side, we catch a glimpse of the push and pull tension between creator and playtester. We see how the decisions made in the earliest days of development would affect how we conceive of Magic for decades to come.
This like early era, especially if you look at Menagerie and Ice Age, maybe especially Menagerie, these cards are created before Alpha comes to the printer. And these guys have different ideas of what Magic should be like from like a Ludo narrative perspective. Richard is a fan of, like the physical attributes of the cards, that you can like throw the cards and do these kind of things. And Joe Mix seems to be not a
Dude, look at him. Such a rebel. Such a rebel, dude. What is he doing? Out here in the mountains, dude? That guy is wilding out there. Look at that. Wow.
less interested in this. So when he creates the Chaos Orb for his set, you don't throw it. It just indicates something. So you have this like you can see the different ideas of how you want to approach Magic and what you want to do with it. And because like Richard Garfield had the by far the biggest hat in the start, like you create some cards to throw around.
When Magnus started collecting
Basically forced him to do it. They had no choice. He's like, we're doing this. I'm the big boss. Get fucked.
Chaos Orbs for the revered global set, he thought that these 3 playtest cards would serve as fancy flourishes, accents to the complete base, a finishing touch of fine jewelry. Instead, they opened up yet further rabbit holes.
Dude, that is a scary face. Imagine if you woke up and walked outside and that was the sun. Imagine. You'd be scared.
In
Signatures and
1952,
puzzles.
a tiny family-owned business outside of Los Angeles, California, entered the consumer market specializing in the production of photo albums to preserve family memories. In 1988, with baseball cards on the rise, the same company resized and repurposed their trademark polypropylene sheets to
Oh, Ultra Pro. Okay. So these are the guys that make shitty card sleeves now.
protect collectibles from aging. In 1995, as trading card games exploded in popularity in the wake of Magic's success, the company proposed another simple idea. What if we reduced the 9-pocket plastic page to the size of a single card? Introducing Ultra Pro and Magic, a winning combination.
To be fair, that is a really smart idea. Like, I don't know, but I guess people didn't care back then, though. People didn't care. They were just like, oh, I'm gonna rub my card all over the concrete and, like, get it all fucked up. And nobody cares. This is my Black Lotus. Rip, rip, rip. Don't give a shit. You know?
From the outset, players were antagonistic to card sleeves. They were banned in tournaments in parts because they obscured the logo on the card back, and culturally speaking, there was far less emphasis on preserving what many considered to be just game pieces. In the Duelist issue number 3, Wizards of the Coast sent a survey out to readers to engage their sentiment on sleeves, marking the beginning of a paradigm shift toward protecting cards while playing. Knowing they were facing tough odds, Ultra Pro decided the best way to sell sleeves to unconvinced players would be to entice them with a treasure hunt. So in 1996, they kicked off a contest called the Black Lotus Quest.
The first Magic sleeves, they had this promotion, Ultra Pro, that said, if you find like all the 9 pieces of the Chaos Orb and put them in like an Ultra Pro binder and send them in to Ultra Pro, you will get $100, so you can go and buy yourself a beta Chaos Orb. Or if
But if you would have just kept all of that stuff, it's probably worth way more money now. It's just those separate cards are probably all worth way more money than if you would have sent them in. I guess Black Lotus is only like $100 back then, though, so maybe somebody got a Black Lotus out of this.
you find all the Black Lotus pieces, you get $250, so you can go and buy yourself, and beta Lotus.
In order to keep people opening packs of sleeves, they took a page from the booster playbook and stacked the deck. 8 of the 9 pieces were fairly common for both puzzles, but slot 9 on Black Lotus and slot 7 on Chaos Orb were extremely rare. Magnus likens the campaign to another renowned
Basically, Magic's always been gambling since the beginning.
consumer-oriented lottery. To date, the total number of completed Chaos Orb puzzles in circulation is estimated to be fewer than 10, and one of them belonged to him.
I've managed to get into contact with the people at Ultra Pro who ran the promotion, and tried to get some follow up with them. It's hard to know, like they don't know exactly how many they made. They don't have the date on that, but they said there were a good handful of people that sent them in, and they got the money. My personal current opinion, which can be proven wrong, is that they made 12 pieces of the Chaos Orb, around 12, and around 6 of the Black Lotus.
This contest stands out to me for 2 reasons. For one, it marks the beginning of Magic outgrowing its position as a fringe game and becoming an independent industry, with companies like Ultra Pro following in suit and developing hyper-specific products to satisfy niche demands. Secondly, it comes as no surprise that marketing teams leveraged the iconicity of Black Lotus to drive sales, but Chaos Orb was right there too. Early Magic was, in part, defined by this image, which reflected the sensibilities of its younger player base.
When you were a tween in the mid-90s, is it cooler to have, this flower that can help, cast a turn 1 giant spider? Or is it cooler to have this, amazing sphere of annihilation that they throw on your opponent to annihilate its entire board? I mean, the answer is, kind of easy, I would say.
That's true. People are probably like, a flower? A flower? It just, doesn't seem cool. It's not a fucking sword. It's not a giant fucking orb in the sky vomiting lava. Nothing insane. It's just a flower. But, that's what's great about it, dude, is it's such, a subtly sick card. Like, the art, it looks so subtle. It's just, it doesn't look, flashy, really, or anything. It's just a flower. I don't know. I love it. Black Lotus is good card. Good card.
Slowly but surely, Magnus's eclectic collection was coming together. Then, in the midst of the tumultuous year that was 2020, yet another extremely strange oddity crossed his path, a keepsake that was tailor-made for such a passionate and particular collector such as himself. This is a heavily loved Alpha Chaos Orb, with text altered by the one and only Richard Garfield.
Oh, man. That's what I'm talking about, man. Look at that. Somebody just put that through the wash, 5 fucking times, and just, scraped it all over the concrete in their driveway. Man, it looks amazing, though. Actually, I find there's, a really cool charm to, beat the shit Magic cards, especially, the old ones. I mean, and this is, what, an alpha? This is an alpha one. That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, so
and Richard Garfield wrote on it, edited it. That's nuts.
Garfield altars are really cool, I think. The idea is that, there was this schoolyard urban legend when I was a kid that says that, you could, if you had a card that Richard Garfield had edited the text on and then signed, you could play it as written. Because that's kind of what they did during playtesting. He said, okay, yeah, maybe.
So if you're at a tournament or something, Richard Garfield walks by, hey man, you write on my card real quick so I make this 1-1 into 2020 for me real quick. Thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. No, totally legal, man. Totally legal. He made the game.
This time walk needs to, sacrifice an island.
He is God.
He just writes that on the card and signs it, and then it suddenly has a slightly different effect. So because that's how they try to play the game. So if you found old cards with Garfield's, especially his old signature, you would say that, yeah, these can
hey, look at that. It changed from 2-2 to a 1-1. He nerfed it. He could just literally walk by in a tournament, write on your card, and nerf you mid-game.
It's written. So we had these stories of, there's this ancestral recall that draws 10 cards, or this Birds of Paradise that can deal damage.
The first of these Garfield-altered Chaos Orbs that Magnus found back in 2016 was a copy from Unlimited.
Then I, perchance, found this Chaos Orb from Unlimited that...
He changed it from 1 feet to 2 feet. Ripped up? What does that say?
Said when you flip it, you rip up the card of it, and you rip up the Chaos Orb as well.
Of course, finding this card created desire for an entirely new sub-collection within the collection.
And then I knew about a beta version also of Chaos Orb that had the altar.
This one spoke directly to Richard Garfield's sensibilities.
And then there's the Unfinity one that I actually have somewhere. I'm not going to go grab it, but it's literally like a joke Chaos Orb where it tells you that you have to tear this up. So that's basically what this is, and then they turned it into an uncard. That's awesome.
It was modified to require players to drop the orb from 10 feet without flipping it, and upon resolution, it would transfer control to a target player.
Eventually, I figured out that there existed an alpha version also. So there was one unlimited, one beta, and one alpha. And I was like, Jesus, I need to really get hands on this alpha version.
This guy is obsessed with Chaos Orb. He's like, I need every single crazy unique Chaos Orb ever. Put it in my hands. Put it in the safe. I want it. I want to own it.
As fate might have it, Magnus happened upon such a card while playing at an old school tournament in a rundown pub.
At that point, I had like almost as a joke started a format that, you know, was alpha only. So
Old school sounds like a really fun format, actually. Like, you just have to play with cards that were like 93, 94. Way weaker, but you get... It's like weaker, but also stronger, because you get to play with like the crazy powerful cards, Black Lotus and Soul Ring and stuff. But then like the things you're doing, like the payoffs are just not there.
only played with alpha cards. Chaos Orb is played exactly as written. People spread out the cards. I went to a tournament with, you know, a whiteboard and magnets to avoid Chaos Orb, so you can put the cards on like a magnet on the side of the wall. And there came like 50 people, and then the next year we were over 100 people, you know, playing with only alpha cards in a dank pub. And this guy comes.
Wait, so they put magnets? What? Oh, they held their cards on a whiteboard like magnets so they could like flip up the board? Then like it was like actually impossible to land a orb on it? Okay, that's cool.
I'm saying, yes, you know, he's got his Chaos Orb. That's the alpha version of the Garfield Altar. That's like extremely well played, edited to be, you know, experienced Chaos Orb, and it costs 5 to cast and 2 to activate, but you get to flip it twice.
Within a couple of years, the original owner decided to sell the beat-up Alpha Orb to Magnus, thus completing the holy grail of Garfield altars in a now robust collection.
I want to see Richard Garfield's collection, man. I hope he does like a video or something, or somebody does a video on it someday. Like, I want to just see like what all he has, or if he even has anything. Maybe he doesn't even own any Magic cards. He's sold them all. I don't know.
Other rarities in the binder included a couple of artist proofs from Mark Tadine, some very goofy Chaos Orb reskins from Inquest issue number 61, which included a proxy called Order Orb that returned cards from your graveyard back to your hand, and a custom altar by Lady Deathtouch painted on a battering ram. Renaming this one Sphere of Annihilation
That looks sick as fuck.
was a cool touch. Perhaps the most endearing of Magnus's orbs was sent to him as a gift from a dear friend in Italy.
My personal favorite of the Chaos Orb, and especially the gifts, was one that I got from a good friend in Italy. The story here is that, you know, the first world champion of Magic, Zach Dolan, he played Chaos Orb in his deck. At some point, you know, Zach Dolan decided to sell his cards, but he didn't sell his Chaos Orb because his deck was found by his dog, and his dog shooed on his deck. So his Chaos Orb has been like fully shooed by a dog
Oh
in
my
like kind of messy corner,
God.
and it's like very strange shape. So,
But then this guy wants it because it's so unique, because it's like it was played in this tournament, but then it was chewed by a dog, and now it's part of the story. Now it's worth even more, even though it got chewed on by a dog. That's, dude, Magic players are insane.
got this Chaos Orb that has a personal letter from Zach Dolan. It's like, yeah, so this is my old Chaos Orb. I had it for over 20 years. It was chewed by a dog, so I didn't sell it. You know?
It was chewed by a dog.
In the summer
Enjoy.
of 2022, Magnus and his wife learns they would be expecting their second child, a daughter. The binder
Sneak into your parents' closet to get a deck. Your new sister's joining the game. Oh, that's adorable, man. That is adorable. That is very heartwarming.
containing all the Chaos Orbs suddenly took on a different shape, and by the end of the year, it would no longer be his to maintain. In the process of searching for a potential buyer, Magnus found the ideal caretaker, someone who was there at the very beginning of Magic, someone that had a distant hand in Chaos Orb's design. Magnus flew from Oslo to San Diego to hand-deliver the binder himself, then spent the weekend playing cards with Joel Mick, one of the alpha playtesters, and the newest custodian of the Chaos Orb collection.
They don't tell you how much money he bought it for, though. Probably some insane amount.
So one thing that's cool if you look at Chaos Orb and the history of Chaos Orb.
This video has a
you
lot of
can
parts.
Follow it in like in 3 kind of different ways. One is that it was, the card design at itself, like a kind of quirky card. So you can see like how the different playtesters approach it. So you have this, design approach, like what we want to do with Magic. Do we want the cards to have their own physical properties? But then you also have the power level of the card in the sense that, it affects tournament play, and you can follow ideas of tournament magic and competition and, power cards and the banner restricted list, the tournament scene very well with it.
That dude, hold on. This dude looks stressed
And,
out.
power cards.
Oh man, he just had his spell countered. Like, dude, that other guy just played counter spell on some shit, or he bolted his bird or something. That guy is depressed.
And the banner restricted list, the tournament scene very well with it. You also have, the general design and art of the card, which was very iconic. So when you created something in Magic, at least, in the first 5 years of the game, what you tended to do as promotional material was, Chaos Orb or Black Lotus, or both.
There's also a fourth thread that you can follow with Chaos Orb, one of urban legends and myth. You can trace a history of rumors, of a friend who ripped up their card and tossed it like dice, or of a guy who showed up to the pub with a whiteboard and magnets as a playmat to dodge flips, or of a mysterious playtest card that was lost to time. Every Magic card tells a story, but Chaos Orb is a story. Intrinsic to its design is the prerequisite of sitting across the table from another person and playing cards together. The anecdotes that emerge from these encounters don't need to be true, they just need to be good. And we must continue telling them. We must continue to skylark, and we must continue to jest. The Chicago Old School Magic Club Lords of the Pit have a standing contest at their events. Hit 50 Chaos Orb flips in a row and earn your patch.
What, dude? You can get a patch just for flipping the orb? Wait, how many times did he say? 50?
Hit 50 Chaos Orb flips in a row and earn your patch.
But they're playing old school. Okay, so it could, yeah, you could get it fairly quickly, I feel like. That's a sweet patch. Like, I always like the idea of patches, but I never know what to put them on or, like, what to do with them when I get them.
Long live the orb. The final sponsor for this episode is the Frame-O-Majigs Kickstarter project. Frame-O-Majigs are the framing solution for your collectible cards. Each frame has a solid wood construction with no moving parts and includes a magnetic case with UV protection to showcase the crowns of your collection.
Oh, that's cool, man. Oh, it's got UV protection too, so like the sun's not gonna affect it. That's awesome. That's a really cool idea. I should get some of those frame for behind me. I need like something in the background, but I haven't decided what to put there yet.
Cards easily slot in and out at the top of the frame so you can quickly mix and match them, and each case is compatible with Pokemon, Magic, and most collectible sports and comic cards. These frames are available in black and wood to start, with more colors unlocking based on stretch goals. Use my affiliate link below to support the Kickstarter. We're in the home stretch now, so pick up some frames before time runs out.
Guys are like, people want to frame their cards, we're going to make the frames that are perfect for the cards. You don't got to worry about that. Bing, bang, boom. Yeah, this is awesome. This is a cool company.
In the mid-2000s, Magnus and a few of his Swedish friends conceived of a format that captured the essence of the earliest days of the game. They named this format Old School 93-94, and as the name suggests, deck building was constrained to cards printed within the first 2 years of design.
I think like one of the core ideas was that, I really wanted to go to a convention where people could go like 0-2 and still stay, or the putting the gathering back in Magic in a good way, because when I played like in the mid 2000s, or where I played at least, it was a bit more competitive, and that side of Magic can be fun also. I don't mind going to a tournament where my goal is to win, but having this idea that you could try to find that old nostalgia in a sense, and be a bit more creative with your decks in a sense, because you had to, because when you play cards that are only printed in the first year of Magic, like August 93 to August 94, Alpha through the Dark, you can't build the best deck. You need to kind of commit to suboptimal builds in a sense. And I think Chaos Orb fit like perfect in that form, because it is like this whimsical kind of card, right? So the old school Magic format came, from a place of hanging out with people.
It is quite whimsical, to be fair.
And I was very lucky and pleasantly surprised to see that, there were a lot of people, with the same sentiment as me around the world.
For balancing purposes, Magnus instated a slight rules change to Chaos Orb. You still flip it, of course, but it can only destroy one target permanent. In this way, the card now rewards marksmen with excellent targeting skills while preserving the core design of the card. The landing page of veteran magic artist Mark Tadin's website features Chaos Orb. In 2013, Tadin reimagined the orb for an art book collection called The Gathering to celebrate Magic's 20th anniversary.
Dude, that looks awesome. That is so cool. Wait, can Chaos Orb on the reserve? It must be reserve list. I have to look that up. Oh, let's look. I want to look that up actually. Great. Have a list. Here we go. Chaos Orb. It is on the reserve list. Okay. They're never gonna get to use that
More
art on an
recently,
actual Magic
Tadin
card.
held
Then.
a painting demonstration for an old school charity tournament in California. Under his tutelage, players painted their own versions of the icon, with Mark donating his completed painting to be sold for charity. Rumors have it that he flipped an orb while he was there too. In 2021, Chaos Orb's legacy came full circle with the printing of Sphere of Annihilation for Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, Magic's D&D inspired expansion. Sadly, this one bears no mention of flips, but the real ones don't forget where they came from.
Now Sphere of Annihilation's an actual card. I forgot about that they even printed that. That's nuts.
Once again, long live the orb. Special thanks to Magnus de Laval, the godfather of old school Magic, for helping with this story. His blog is a must-read for Magic enthusiasts. He's written over 1 million words on Magic in the past 10 years, and the research he does for his posts.
I love that, like, the you are already dead thing. Like, when you have to name a card, I think it was with, like, Painted Pact or whatever. Something. You want a consultation, you name You're Already Dead on Magic Online, just to let your opponent know what's up.
Is inspiring. I have links to recommended readings in the description below. Thanks so much for watching.
You're welcome. That was a great video. Yeah, that was really fun.